Hi, I'm Nina. I've been drawing and making art probably for the last 12 years. I'm reviewing my sketchbooks, and this is going to be my sketchbook from August 2024 to August 2025. This sketchbook is the fastest I've ever finished a sketchbook in the last decade or so, aside from art school sketchbooks. This is going to be an Ohuhu Sketchbook. If you know how to say that, I guess let me know. This is specifically a marker sketchbook. I really loved this sketchbook. I've honestly not liked sketchbook paper qualities for most of my sketchbooks, so this one was a pleasant surprise. Liked the square format. This size is 6.6 by 6.6, so square. Yeah, and a marker paper one specifically has perforated edges for taking out your stuff. I didn't take anything out of this sketchbook, but I do not keep everything. But some of these drawings from this sketchbook I will probably tear out and frame as original pieces. This sketchbook, I started with a lemon. Funny enough, in my last sketchbook, I also started with a little lemon. This is also based off of Billie Eilish's eyes, or the eye reference I used for these. This color here is a beautiful, I believe, Prismacolor color. It's neon yellow. Obviously, this isn't the neon yellow, but this is the Prismacolor pencil that I usually start off sketches with. I do a Col-Erase to start every sketch in a sketching stage, but once I'm actually to coloring, I use a soft Prismacolor and then a kind of harder Faber Castell to finish for the hard edge lines. I liked how this one turned out. This was just like something easy to start the sketchbook with. And I wanted to use these colors, the yellow, purple, and this beautiful like aquamarine blue type color I'm using a lot lately. And with some of my sketches, I also had to put in this panel of tracing paper because I did not end up doing too many two-page spreads in this sketchbook, just because obviously we get transfer. This sketchbook did also come with a paper or a plastic panel that you can put in between pages so that if you're drawing on the back of one of them, it won't transfer over. In this two-page spread, I like to sometimes write things around my illustrations. I can be tart if I want to, is what this page says if it's not super clear on camera, since it's got that neon yellow color. These leaves were just to add a little graphic element. I like how they turned out, but they're kind of quick for me, kind of more feathery. I would probably blend this in more now if I was drawing this today. But I like how it turned out regardless. Got to experiment with all my favorite colors. Yeah, and I did glue two pages together. There was an illustration of a cat I didn't like, but I'm feeling less bad about gluing pages together. If I don't like something, why do I gotta keep it, you know? So these pages are hand studies. I'm still trying to figure out if I include hands in my work or not, and it's a sketchbook, so I'm gonna be playing around with things like I need to try drawing. I still really loved hands. These are 36 and 40-minute drawings. I also at this point started to keep track of how long things take me to draw, just so I have a better idea of how long projects are gonna take. And I like these. I hope I can include hands later, but oh well. This piece is a bit like, this is one of those two-page spreads I kind of did stop doing because you'll find colored pencil will transfer over in sketchbooks. I think I perhaps may have sprayed this with some varnish to keep that from happening. Later on, I started to spray some of my pages with varnish. It's a matte enamel spray varnish, I believe. This piece would probably be better as a painting. This took me about 3 hours, 10 minutes is what the page says. And just because cherries are like gushy, juicy things, I don't think colored pencil was like the best choice for this. My blending here I don't quite like. It's like a little scratchy for me. But I love how the eye turned out, the tear, the leaf, and everything is super cute. And I like the colors. So yeah, still a sketch, and like don't need to beat myself up about not doing the right medium the first time. This might get redone as a painting. I could see myself doing this with Poscas. This was a pretty quick one. I had a couple weeks there. I was trying to do drawings all in one sitting. I don't typically do that. That's one of the reasons why I started recording times, just to like give myself a sense of how long things took. This is somewhere between 46 and 56 minutes. I can't tell from what I've written down. It's a bit messy too. But I liked how the leaves and everything ended up turning out. This I did include the Ohuhu marker is the hearts here. Same kind of colored pencil process with my softer pencils versus like harder pencils for the outlines. I do a lot of anthropomorphizing fruits and vegetables with these eyes. So this was a new one for me. I hadn't done peas before and tried to imagine eyes in it. So overall, I think something I might revisit. And same with this one. This is a kind of short sketch. This one's 50 minutes. Same deal. I had that couple of weeks where I was like sitting down, have to finish a drawing all in one sitting. 50 minutes can be a kind of goes by really fast. It felt like a really fast sketch. I do a lot with clouds still. Eyes are a super big theme in my stuff. And so I just wanted to play around with that. I don't love this compositionally, but I wanted to play around with these colors, shading clouds. Yeah, nothing wrong with it, but definitely trying to move forward from being better with compositions, making stronger contrast choices, stuff like that. This is where I started kind of becoming a little obsessed with doing some cross sections of fruits and trying to characterize them, include eyes and stuff. This one's a little sexier. And this is an hour and 55 minute sketch. So again, start off with Ohuhu Markers. It's got really soft Prismacolor start with some of the beginning of the shading. This is where I feel like my shading also starts to get a lot better. Contrast is starting to get better. I did think I had to use some kind of outside marker for the darkness in the eye. I fucked it up a couple times, and then it just ended up being really dark. There's also some highlights in here that are from, I believe, a Pentel white ink pen. I have liked those in the past, but I felt like they've always dried out super fast. So if anyone has any recommendations for ones that don't dry out super fast, would love that. This piece is also getting turned into a painting, so I did like it enough to continue with it as a theme. There's definitely things I'm changing about it too, because I completely redrew this. But a good start on theme and a bunch of other stuff. Oh, and this is when I also start to kind of like swatch my colors a bit more. And you'll see that as like we go on. I needed to do that when I like come back to sketches after like taking a day off or so from sketching. I need to remind myself like what colors I'm using. I was just experimenting with clouds here. Again, I do a lot of clouds. Wanted to make this funky compositionally, trying to figure out if I can include cartoon elements in some of my pieces. And I could have put more contrast in this one, but this is super fast. This is a 54-minute sketch I did all at a park. I think I might have even used real clouds as my reference and then just kind of doodled around it. But yeah, definitely starting to go somewhere. Blending could be better, but it's This is also another super short sketch. Occasionally I just do generalized fruits and vegetables to study them and then use funky colors that I typically use in my art to practice that. So this one's a really short one. This is 40 minutes. Did start out with the marker as well. I love the stem on this one so much. Might copy this exactly and like put it on a different fruit or vegetable later. I did try to write around this one. There's a bit of ghosting of some like words, but I ended up just giving it a little pop to cover that up a little bit. But we learned some stuff. That's what it's all about. This piece, I used to do a lot more mouths, and I draw them like solo. Don't know that that's something like, it's not super innovative or anything. I wanted to see how many more mouths I'm gonna put in things. This is the only mouth drawing in this entire sketchbook. So I kind of lost interest after this. And this one was super difficult. Hated this for so many different stages of it. The Posca is included. One of the Poscas is included to give it more of a pop in the background, and I had to fix the proportions. It was just a struggle. I love how the teeth turned out. The teeth are like the main highlight in this for me. Somehow, I guess maybe I'll include teeth in future like fruits, so we'll just have a little bite to them. I don't know. But also color, looking at trying to do purple and green together and not make it look like Halloween did not help that I made this a vampire mouth. Oh well. So this is another 2-page spread. This might be one of the last ones. Just doing studies of leaves at this point. I do include a lot of leaves with other themes and stuff. I kind of went a little overboard with this one. This took, looks like 2 hours, 8 minutes is what I wrote down for this one. I'm really bad about not including backgrounds too, so I added some doodles of like teardrop, raindrop vibes. I do like doing this thing where I will use a different color marker and then do a completely different color or like slight variant of that color overlaying with colored pencil. This is like a green and then a blue-green. I like the effect where it like blends is really cool. And for the most part, good leaf study. Wish I had done better with the stem, but I also use a Pinterest reference that was a fake plant, I believe. So better references, find better references. And this is just some studies of leaves. Leaves are always showing up in like some of my bigger pieces or other illustrations, so it was important for me to practice some of them. They're all kind of always imagined. I'm never like realistically trying to portray a leaf as it exists in nature. So this is something like a Monstera Adidonsi blend. Same thing. I'm using like one color marker, different colored pencil. I'm liking how it's like starting to look. But I will say that my favorite on this page is this like yellow and green leaf here. Various times, like 38 minutes. This is a 10-minute sketch. Look at me. So even though these are like different from leaves that I'm putting in stuff right now, I think it's good for me to try to explore a range of like different kinds of leaves that I'll be including in stuff later. And this is another page kind of exploring that cross-section concept of fruits spliced with their little eyes in them. I really liked this one. I think it's just like the contrast really pops for me. I also love this color green. It's a Posca emerald green, which is why it's so like graphic. I will say my disappointments with this are kind of composition. I didn't really think about where to start drawing everything. If I could change that, probably be bigger, more centered, or more diagonal in the frame. Because I would rip this out and do it as an original, but it's so close to the edge of frame that if I were to frame this, some of this gets cut off. So it's fine. I could scan it, do it as a print later if I wanted to. I think what it is for me is I just really love how I rendered this, like, it's based off a little mandarin orange image probably. And I really love that contrast. Even though that's not exactly what oranges look like. I like that it looks like a cell or something. The powerhouse of the cell. And this was actually kind of a short-ish sketch. Like, an hour, 26 minutes is not that long for me. The eye could probably be better. Whatever. I'm already kind of like redoing this concept in my new sketchbook. I already don't like it, but I think it's probably a theme I'll do over a couple times. And I really like the colors, so yeah, not mad at it at all. And this cadmium orange, I think after this sketch, I even have that one with me. The little Polychromo Faber Castells. Those are the harder ones. When I say I'm using like a Faber Castell, it's usually the Polychromos. I forgot if it's I'm a Wonder told me like these differences in colored pencils. Y'all can totally tag that, I guess, if that is the person who's like, these are my favorite colored pencils. Yeah, when I say I'm using a Faber Castell, it's usually the Polychromos. And I love this cadmium orange color. It ends up in so many things I'm drawing lately. I'm gonna have to probably buy 2 more of them. And yeah, again, same concept of like doing more cross sections with the eyes. This one is based off a Pinterest image where it's like a heart that's had like that's in an apple, like bitten out of an apple. I think I could have made that more evident in this sketch because it just kind of looks like it's stamped on the apple. I tried to give it depth, but I'm also using that neon yellow color, and that was actually kind of hard to blend with other colors. I have like a more brownish yellow to try to give it shading, but it was just not blending very well. So I'm a little frustrated with this one, to be honest. This looks like an hour, 28 minutes for this one. I like a lot of things conceptually about this one, but I feel like I could have pushed the colors in a different direction too. It's a little too neon-y for me. I feel like the pinks and the greens don't quite go together for this one, but maybe I will redo this one later. I kind of like that this looks like a butt though, like at the top. Yeah, definitely things about it that I like about it. Love I've done the apple teardrop seed concept in other drawings, so that's something I'll always be messing around with. This page I don't like. I think it's fine to cover drawings you don't like. It was supposed to be a study of a pair that just really didn't go well. And I did end up having to cover it because on this next page, I actually think I'm going to tear this one out. This drawing I really liked. This was kind of out of my comfort zone theme-wise. I don't do a lot of celestial body type drawings. And this was kind of a quick sketch. It was like an hour, 25 minutes. But I was just like, I might have even done this all in one sitting too. Because there's an emotional reason for why I drew this. I don't even know if I need to get into it right now. But at the time I was feeling like this really deep and crazy longing heartbreak vibe. If anyone's familiar with Florence and the Machine, I was listening to the Ceremonials album. When this gets framed and maybe it'll get shown somewhere else. When this gets framed, I think I might even name it after the Florence song I listened to the most when I was drawing it. The things I like the most about this particular drawing is kind of the colors, honestly. It's a classic blue-orange contrast situation. And it's the angle of the eye I really like. The stars don't love. I think they feel like slightly afterthoughty, but I don't know. I'm trying to also get used to texture and things that feel a little more messy. So yeah, there's a lot of things I like about this one. And I like it compositionally. It's more of a diagonal. And I think that I forget that's an option. And I gave it a background. I actually gave it a background. I like that it feels like almost like watercolor. It is a dark Ohuhu marker. And then all my little color pencils. Oh, 2 hours 20 for this one. Oh yeah, this is just a freaking kind of messy page. My definition of a messy page. It does have a lot of transfer. I haven't like sprayed this. Oh, I did rip something out. I don't know what I ripped out. Probably something bad. But yeah, this started as a color swatch, and then I wanted to do studies like cloud. I got blueberries in here. I love blueberries. I just can't figure out how to put them in bigger pieces yet. I am obsessed with these grapes, but they took way too fucking long. I spent an hour and 13 on just the grapes, I think. Yeah, and I love all the colors on this page. This page, the colors for me, I'm like, they're a little all over the place, but I'm trying to go for that classic grape purple that doesn't exist in real life. So I'll figure out some color pairings for that. Yeah, just practice a couple little techniques also with like using colored pencils themselves. This was like another experimentation in just finding different fruits. How would eyes set into them if they were like little living creatures? This is a star fruit, and I hadn't really ever drawn star fruits. I like how the blending turned out on this one. I did greens going into that neon yellow that I really like. The cadmium orange is in here. Don't know that the eyes transfer crazy well in this. When I tell people it has little eyes in it, I don't think they even notice. And I did some wording just because love that meme. And I am trying to practice like some of my lettering on the sides where I'm also swatching stuff. This is about hour 23 minutes is what this page says. Yeah, I really like this one, though some of these are annoying me in the sense that I didn't put in backgrounds, or like they could just have a little more visual interest. But it is, again, a sketch in a sketchbook. We don't need to make it the end all be all. This is kind of like a big swatching page for a paper mache piece I made that's a tray. Maybe I can include some image of that somewhere, or I will tag it on Instagram. Purple and orange are such a hard color combination. I really wanted to figure out how it could like work. And I ended up adding this light purple. Also, this is Posca. Like, just wanted to play around with also just practicing using the Posca. But adding the light purple for me really helped kind of make it less severe. And I think this, closer to this design, ended up on the tray. And I did rip out, okay, I ripped out a couple pages. They were sketches that were not going well with the Poscas here. These spreads, like these experimentations, I actually don't really like, but they are necessary. This was a page I wanted to see how much I can get on top of like collaged paper. These are some of my like, I do to-do lists all the time. So my Post-its glued onto my sketchbook, ripped around like, and then I did a peach study over it. I like it fine, but it is like very experimental for me. I don't typically do stuff like this. This one in particular here, I like the freaking stem. That's like the only thing I like about this. But this was also necessary in the sense that I kind of want to experiment with fruit bruising the way skin does. And that was super hard on this, just because we're going from orange to purple. Like skin bruising is always in that purple, pink, red range, and I did not think about that, making this like an orange apple. Posca to kind of like ground it, trying to give myself a background. Not really working, but it's fine. Like, we learned something. I do this bruising later, and there's parts of it I really do like, but yeah, learned something for sure. This sketch I do actually really like. This feels like more the direction I should go with how to kind of balance that realism versus like cartoony style. This is like a peach, but it obviously doesn't look super accurate to how peaches look in real life. I just wanted a funky shape. And this is what I mean about like backgrounds. Oh my gosh, it like grounds it a little more. And I loved these colors I picked. This is kind of the direction I'm trying to go with, like adding more contrast, adding more like pastels meet bold colors. And I kind of figured that out on this page here. Like, I did a pre-sketch and a couple colors paired with, this is actually a lot of Posca. I think this color might have even been one of the bases of this, and then I did a little lighter wash of a different orange color I have. And I really like this one. This one could be ripped out, but then I have this one on the back. So that's why I kind of stopped doing that. Yeah, the leaves are fine. The leaves are where I'm most annoyed with this one, but I like the overall effect of the colors and how bold everything is. I should probably spray this with that varnish I was talking about, because I'm already seeing over time some ghosting and like transferring happening. Yeah, this is another little cross-section bit. Red onion. I love a red onion. They're such a beautiful color. This one's definitely a more pink side of what you find too realistic to a red onion, but this one I think I did end up having to varnish because there was so much transfer happening before I did that. When I was doing this, I thought about Shrek a lot, like layers. I like a lot of things about this. It's a little soft, this whole drawing for me. I think it could be a little bolder, but I was playing around with like practicing shading, the star in the eye kind of like blending out versus being a really defined star in the eye. So I like where this is going. I don't know that I would love to frame and present this as an original. 2 hours and 17 minutes too. It took me a long time to do this shading. And with this shading, I'm starting to do the thing where you blend with a white colored pencil. You blend it out. Here, I don't know that that was actually the right choice or like most effective to do. I think I'm also getting used to how kind of fine you have to have your shading for that to be really effective. So, learning some stuff. Now this one is probably going to get torn out and framed. I really like this one. I get a lot of compliments on this particular drawing. And while I was finishing this, I was working at a local bar, and some of the people there were like, "Oh my God, you can draw." It's like, yeah, I know. Thank you. I did a lot of swatching for this one. I was afraid of this drawing for so long. I've never drawn garlic, really. So this was also me figuring that out. And I will have to varnish this again, it looks like. I think I already did it once, but there's still transfer happening from this page. Yeah, so this is Posca as the background, some light markering. In here, I think I started out with a light pink, and then the rest of it overlay is like all these different purples. I used so many of them. That's why this swatch page got so crazy. I really had to figure out, like these small studies, what was gonna work and how many purples I was gonna limit myself to. The bruise on this one, that's what we were trying to do, is give it a little spicy detail, make it a little sexy. This is still not the longest drawing. It took 1 hour and 57, but I will say I like took long breaks from this one. I might have stopped this one for like a week and come back to it. I was really afraid of fucking this one up. But I love the colors. I love how it turned out. Anytime I can kind of combine the classic contrasting colors, purple and yellow together, I'm happy. I'm very happy with this one. This was a more experimental one for sure. I really like almost tore this page out just because it got so messy at a point. This is obviously all Posca in the background. It's covering like a whole bunch of other doodles I started. I had started with like marker background that was a sunburst, and it just didn't work. Like, I didn't love the color choice. I did like this weird pink to go with this green. It was not matching. So I went back to one of my classic combos of the green and the purple. Here I don't feel like it's as Halloween-y. But this isn't the strongest sketch at the same time. This is when I feel like the paper did start to buckle really badly. This is a great thick mixed media paper. Great for markers. However, with Poscas, and this is going to be most any sketchbook, with Poscas on paper, they're not really made for that. Like, they are going to start to tear the paper up, especially if it's super wet and you keep adding a bunch of color. So that was frustrating. I really impatient with it. But eventually I do feel like I ended up liking the shading on the sword. I like the compositional idea here. I'll probably maybe revisit it somehow. But again, it's a sketch. We're learning stuff. This was also an emotional one of like, I was processing some shit. So there was like a almost poem written on this side. This happened on accident. One of my Poscas was paint loaded and then it kind of exploded on this page. So I'm kind of glad it covered up a kind of vulnerable little phrase I threw on there. And I ended up spending about 1 hour 36 on this one. Yeah, so we learned a lot of stuff. Really got into the mixed media because we really tore up the paper. This one's a set of studies too, kind of an experiment page. This is, again, studies for that other tray. This was the color palette I ended up kind of going with more so, where it has that lilac light orange, and then this juicy little, coral pink. That's what it is. Such a good color. But yeah, so totally messy over here. Threw in I'm starting to glue in tiny doodles into some of my sketches that I actually do like, because I can draw them later, or like I can use it as a reference to draw it bigger. I'm very much a fan of gluing stuff in your sketchbook now. These studies, little mandarin orange, really like how the orange itself turns out. The leaf is cute. Some blending issues, but whatever. This was a helicopter seed I got from a trip, like a cabin trip I went to. Both of these are about 1 hour studies, because I didn't want to, if I was like loading up my pages, I didn't want to spend like a crazy amount on individual objects, and I am trying to keep myself limited with how long I spend on individual objects, just because we don't want to get in the weeds, get too realistic. We want to kind of combine cartoonish realism, and keeping myself at a time limit has helped me with that. And this is the end of the sketchbook actually, where it was the last page, and I felt like I should just draw on the back. I don't know. I felt like I went through this sketchbook so fast that when I got here, I was like, I'm gonna draw a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna just like kick it off on like some stuff I should add to the next sketchbook or other things I should do. So these were different fruit and color studies. 35 minutes, probably like closer to 40 to an hour for this one. I really messed this one up several times, and there's some transfer from the Posca background. I do want to work on melting fruits in the future, and these are some color combos I've been meaning to try. The blue tomato was such a pain. At first, it actually was completely a colored pencil drawing, and then I went back in with Posca and fixed that kind of because the blending was just not super strong. But I love my little leaves. The leaves on this one were so difficult, but they got there. I also really love this color combo with the, and I chose some crazy papers for these two. These might be on like watercolor paper. I don't recommend those for Poscas either. Like they are more textured, but Poscas still tend to rip all this stuff up. Use your Poscas on hard surfaces, hard porous surfaces. But I do like this looks a little more butt-like, especially compared to the cherry from earlier. This is definitely more juicy feeling. We're starting to kind of get to an area with all the fruits where they're starting to feel like juicy. Yeah, I glued in some stuff. This has a pocket too. This freaking sketchbook has a pocket. Love a sketchbook with a pocket. So overall, pretty happy with this guy. This is one of the fastest sketchbooks I've ever done. Definitely motivated me to get right into the next sketchbook. And the next sketchbook is actually the same one. So I liked this paper enough to where I bought the exact same sketchbook and I bought the larger size. So it is this Ohuhu brand, and the size I have now is like 8x8. So it feels a decent amount larger than this one. And I guess one of the complaints is like it didn't feel like a lot of paper, but I got through it so fast, maybe I shouldn't be knocking it like that. But overall, pretty happy with it. Yeah. And I'm super excited to get through the next one.